All right, welcome in. If you are new here, my name is Dr. Matt, and I help folks get into medical school. All right, let's go ahead and launch over here on the TikTok side. We will be chatting for probably, I'm going to say about 20 minutes tonight. Make sure we are totally up and running on both sides. If you have been here before, you know how we roll. We like to tackle the questions that people have about getting into med school, practical questions about how people's stats play out, and so much more. Let's see. Premed HQ with Dr. Matt. All right. Medical school admissions, MCAT, and more, with the founder of MCATboss.com. All right. And we are live. And let me check this part out here. Premed HQ. Ask about the MCAT and getting into medical school. Yay. And let's do a punchy color this time. Let's do like a bright red. No, that's so strange looking. Maybe that. Nice and colorful, centered. That looks cool. All right. That's kind of hard to read. What is easier to read? I don't know what people think is easier to read. Maybe dark letters, maybe light letters. I will have to take a poll on this someday. Center. There we go. Boom. Okay. Well, maybe that'll do the trick. All right, guys, welcome in. I think everything is up and running. All right. So we were doing a really fun rundown earlier on what the most popular, what the most common myths are about getting into med school. There's some pretty interesting ones. Apparently, all kinds of interesting myths about getting to med school. Let me adjust my screen size here so it's the same on both platforms. That looks cool. Okay, I think we're set up on both. All right, Henry jumping in with the confidence. I got a 520. Man, that is awesome. Congrats. Congratulations, a 520. You know that is some hard work. Way to go. Henry, you have to let me know, are you in now? Are you applying? Is this your app season? Are you already in? Nice. Yeah, sure thing. All right, guys. Any serious questions, always welcome. Y'all let me know. Let me add something here on the YouTube side. Drop your MCAT and pre-med questions here. All right. Welcome in over on the TikTok side, guys. If you are jumping in for the first time, let me leave some instructions here. Ask about medical school admissions and improving your MCAT here. All right. Ocean Spray says 514 MCAT and 3.84 GPA. Those are some great numbers. If you have any questions, let me know. Those are definitely some great numbers. Those kinds of numbers are kind of the sweet spot for, like, when we cannot get these headphones right tonight. When we talk about the like the sweet spot for looking like you have the long-term dedication to do well because of maintaining that good GPA, that is kind of where it's at, man. That's a great score, and that's a great way to knock it out of the park on the MCAT. On the YouTube side, Kaylee says, how can you become a doctor? So the Cliff Notes version is that you start by, obviously, finishing high school, and then you head over to college, and you don't have to get a science degree per se. You can get a degree in art history or whatever you're interested in. And then all you got to do is take the right science prerequisites and do some clinical and volunteering hours so that you have kind of a documented familiarity with some of the practice of medicine. And then comes the MCAT. And that is the quite often the barrier that keeps a lot of people out. It's a very, very weird, very long exam. All right. On the TikTok side, SKSCV_ says, how hard is it to get only a 500 on the MCAT? Only aiming for D admissions. How hard is it to get only a 500? I don't know if I understand the question. If you're asking how hard is it to get up to a 500 and like not aim for higher, it really depends on what you mean. Like, so I do have some students who at least have reported taking the MCAT for the very first time, like on a practice test, and scoring close to that. I think for most people, with the right content prep and not being super used to the format of the MCAT, you could kind of get there. Keep in mind the national average is 500. That's not the average for admitted students, but that is the average score. And so the fact that that is the average means that most people actually study pretty hard, probably not long enough, maybe not with an expert, helping them prep. But the fact that the average student graduates or gets close to graduating, studies really hard, and scores a 500 means it still requires quite a bit of effort. Aradia says, do you think BSMD is better? Now, for those of you guys who are not familiar with this is the combination bachelor's and MD program. It's a little bit tailored after the way that they do. It's tailored a little bit after the way that they do the medical school process in Europe, which is you go straight after high school and you essentially do what is equivalent to like around 2 years, maybe 3 years, but usually around 2 years of what are basically pre-med science classes. And you go straight into your medical training, and it is a combined process, and you don't have to reapply for admission. It's pretty cool. U.S. schools are now essentially doing the BS to MD pipeline. Now the difference, and I see the follow-up question about from SKSCV about are there medical schools that don't require the MCAT? Most of them still do. I want to say there's a couple offshore schools that don't, and of course European medical schools do not. Now for BSMD, the combination bachelor's and MD programs, they usually actually still do have a threshold MCAT score that you have to meet to make it into the MD portion of that BS/MD combination degree. All right, next one says, let me switch over for 1 second to the YouTube side. YouTube crew, thank you so much for being here. Last Science says, what is your area of specialty? So I am I actually am working in neurodegenerative disease. I have a very different path than most people because after my clinical training, after my MD, I decided to go in and try to cure Alzheimer's. So a little bit different than most people. Also consider, last line also says, also consider DO versus MD. Okay, yes, I'm an MD. I think being in either BS or either DO or MD is a fantastic plan. They're both really strong now. Momo says, what if I didn't go to the best bachelor school, but I did nursing? So my answer here is going to be probably a little bit surprising. Guys, welcome in if you're new here, by the way. Let me pause real quick and re-intro. My name is Matt, and I am a MD who works in neurodegenerative disease, And I am one of the most experienced MCAT tutors / med school admissions coaches in the country. I'm the founder of MCATboss.com, and I help people get in. So I should probably have left something here. You can email directly, Matt at MCATboss.com, or just drop a form, MCATboss.com, if you need help on your MCAT or your med school apps. Let me jump back in. Momo said, was asking about best bachelors and then commented about nursing. And the two-part answer is this, right? It doesn't usually matter that much where you go to undergrad if you do really well and you do really well on your MCAT. So I went to a tiny little undergrad, no-name undergrad, doesn't produce a lot of doctors. And I got the wrong major, right? I was a mathematician. I did math and physics, and I got into nearly every single, I got interview invites at nearly every single school I applied to. Thank you guys for getting us over that 250 mark on the likes. I really appreciate it. And I got multiple acceptances and all that fun stuff. The thing that helped me, of course, was they didn't have questions like, did this dude have okay prep on like undergrad stuff, because I worked really hard and made sure to show competence on the MCAT. It's one of the reasons I'm still an MCAT tutor, even though I finished my MD, is I think it's really important. I think it actually levels people up, levels the playing field, and it gives people opportunities who might not. So you don't have to ride on like how good your school is. Now, very last response on the comment there though, if you did nursing, that's actually not helpful. And I know this is super surprising, but a lot of times when you do nursing, it looks like you were maybe going into nursing and not being an MD. So just be aware. You might have to explain that. They might have questions for you. Isaac says, is getting into top 50 state school the same or better or worse than an Ivy? For the most part, I don't think it's going to matter that much. It doesn't carry with it it doesn't carry with it. Thank you, Momo. It doesn't carry with it the how should we say that the like prestige factor or whatever. There are some state schools that are like real big on research, where if you do research volunteering, like in a lab with somebody, they might know somebody at a medical school that's related to that school. That can actually help a little bit more. Somebody says, is being an anesthesiologist even worth it while low income? I'm not entirely sure what that question means. A lot of anesthesiologists make pretty great income. I'm sorry, I don't know if there was something else implied by the question. I might be slow. I might be missing it. Io says, any advice on how to write about the MCAS activities given the limited characters? Okay, two things here. General advice is think primarily about commenting briefly on what you did and mostly on what it taught you. And that's the most important thing. If you need more help kind of wording that, do feel free to drop me a line at mcatboss.com, and I'm happy to help you out. I do application, personal statement, essay reviews, just the same as MCAT tutoring. Just book an hour or two with me and we can jump on it. Let's see. SKCV says, Doctor, you haven't really seen. Okay, any tips to... so questions about finasteride and hairlines and all that awesome stuff is definitely that would fall under definitely ask your personal physician. All we do is talk about med school admissions. All right, Martina says, what would you recommend between CAA, CRNA, or anesthesiologist? Martina, that's actually superbly that's actually a really, really important question to think about, because of the fact that there are actually CRNA positions that pay really well and have a really accelerated career track compared to getting into med school and getting into anesthesiology residency and getting through med school and anesthesiology. I actually think CRNAs make a really wise career choice for a lot of them. You really do have to kind of like think about that though. All right, Pokemon says, well, I get screened out with a 124 cars and a 512 MCAT. Okay, you don't hate me for the brutal answer, but there's a very good chance you will get screened out. Have I had students who actually got in with a 124 on cars and above a 510 on the MCAT overall? Yes, I have. What was the formula? Well, we got to work real hard on making that application perfect, interviewing really well if you do get interviews, and then you got to set aside a few $1,000s and apply really, 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 really broadly. Of course, the other option is work with a pro like me. Cars was one of my 100th percentile sections. I am the best tutor in the country for this section. And you can pull that score up and submit a second score before they give away the last interview spots. Jack Stevenson says, could a family member receiving cancer treatment at the university be used in secondary essays? So Jack, can you let me know a little tiny bit more? If you're able to reveal a little bit more about what you mean, I'm not entirely sure. I don't want to infer from your question something that you're not actually asking. So please do feel free to let me know what you're asking before I kind of try to infer that. All right. Tony says, are some med schools now 3 years? You know, I've had a couple people ask me about this, and I think the confusion is I think what we figured out last time somebody asked about this is, I think the confusion is arising from the fact that there are now some combination programs that you get your BS and your MD in 7 years. The difference there, though, is you're actually doing more like an accelerated or a partial bachelor's, then getting straight into a 4-year medical school. So it's like 3 years of undergrad and 4 years of med school. There really, truly is not a way to get rid of the 4th year med school, because you need a minimum 2 to 2.5 years of clinical, and you need a minimum 1.5 or 2 of preclinical. So it really is not super possible. SKSCV says, how much do you charge for tutoring? Students spend anywhere from like $240 an hour down to kind of the mid hundreds, depending on if they book a block of hours with me. If you get in touch with me during a live, mention that you saw me in a live, like email me, just replace this right here, right? Matt@mkitboss.com. Mention that you saw me in a live. And if you book within a day, I do a pretty big chunky, like 30% off any block of hours. And Pokemon says, have around 2.2 thousand clinical and 2.2 thousand research, and applying to 60 schools, MD only. Well, first of all, bravo on the hours. Guys, do not be intimidated if you're out there. That is a lot more hours than most people have. Number 2, also don't be intimidated if you see people applying to 60 schools. I would say most of my students apply to more in the 15 to 30. That is broad apply. That is a pretty broad application. And I would say if you don't have any what we call application speed bumps. So when students hire me to do application reviews, we talk about are there any application speed bumps? Like, have you ever had a academic problem, a legal problem, anything like that? Have you ever been arrested? Anything that's going to make it look a little goofy to the adcoms. If you don't, then that is all you can ask for. Apply broadly, and you did the rest of your things. Jack says, the treatment was for my mom, and that experience was the trigger to get me into medicine. So, Jack, my advice is you can totally mention that. I think it is completely reasonable and realistic and true to life to mention that when you have life-changing or life-threatening circumstances with a family member. And I do have to tell you, though, you have to be careful to package it correctly when you mention wanting to become a doctor because of a sick family member. So again, guys, and I am going to wrap up. I have to wrap up in about 2 minutes here. So drop the questions in or drop me a line at MKitBoss. But Jack, the main thing, and drop me a line if you want to work on your app together or anything. But the main thing is this: your reason for going in and investigating why you want to be a doctor can totally be that you got influenced by some hardship that a family member went in for, cancer therapy or a life-threatening surgery or a trauma case. What you cannot do is you cannot stop there. You have to be like, where I first explored medicine was because of this family experience. But then I did A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, and did all these other steps to investigate what it was actually like to become a doctor, what the practice was like, the academic side, the clinical side, and you have to show that you did a bunch more, because they want to see that it was not like an impulse decision, but even it's okay if it's like an inspiration to start down the road. All right, Kiki says, my dad's a doctor, told me to become an engineer, so I did that. Definitely no. I definitely know a few families where that similar advice has been given. There's nothing wrong with that. Martina says, is being a certified clinical medical assistant and working help at all with hours or anything? Usually you can count those as long as you list off that is the type of clinical experience you had. SKSCV says, can you earn 400,000 as a family medicine physician? So there are ways that some family docs do. It is not typical. That's all I'm gonna say there. But there are ways that people add to their income. All right, guys, I do have to run. It is officially wrap up time. Don't forget, drop a line at mkitboss.com and